understand that the Nigerian security agencies have had the opportunity to infiltrate some of these organs, and maybe they are waiting for their moles within the various units to confirm that such has happened before they can go to the media and confirm. But the international community want to believe that it has happened. And eventually there's going to be linkages where everything will be confirmed by the host nation, and that being Nigeria. So at this particular point in time, let me side with the Nigerian authority in keeping mum until everything is confirmed.
Well, good enough. You just talked about moles, the use of moles, and by now we thought the face of the terrorists in our midst should have been unveiled from maybe information coming in from the moles. Is there any likelihood that in the days to come we should be able to at least have a face to some of these atrocities being caused by some Nigerians?
Suleiman, I'm glad you took me to this direction, and if you notice, I'm a little bit laughing, but not like Obasanjo in this case. The president articulated that he cannot negotiate, or the federal government cannot negotiate with ghosts. And the moment after he left, the JTF killed 52 ghosts, if I may say. Look, on a serious note, there was a missed opportunity by the commander-in-chief. And what I'm trying to say is simple. In the town hall meeting, the president, if I were his advisor, would have challenged the Borno Elders Council. In the midst of that meeting were ward heads, village heads, district heads, and Galadima to an emir. And all these people know who the Boko Harams or Islamist fundamentalists are in their midst. And I thought what the president should have said is to challenge them to tell their sons to surrender their arms so that the federal government can begin to rebuild the devastated areas. But failing to do so, the federal government in their own response said that they cannot deal with ghosts. That is an indictment that the JTF have been fighting ghosts. Yet, human beings are being killed. So one have to be able to reconcile both comments. It means that the president advisors need to come up with better answers and better approaches before a president makes a speech. Number three, I thought that the president, having been to Borno, should have also applied the concept I have been talking about on this air, which I stand vindicated because the eminent Sultan of Sokoto have joined in saying that at some point we may have to issue a blanket amnesty to begin to heal the wounds of these devastations, psychological devastations. Fourthly, I also thought, not that the president must emulate the APC pact, but the president has the power to say to Borno and Yobe states to rebuild the devastated schools. The federal government pledges X amount of money. In this case, nothing hurts if the president pledges ₦1 billion to Borno, ₦1 billion to Yobe. The healing begins. These are Nigerian states, and we must not allow them to fail. Right. But he didn't do that. But I'm quite sure there will be opportunities for him to do that.
Well, let's take a look at that visit now in this report, which is generating so much commentary. Okay, well, I understand it's not available now, but from what you've seen about that visit, remember that politicians also talking about it, and who knows, they say it was a knee-jerk response on the part of the president to have even done that because, well, you talked about the APC governors. Well, they did visit the place at the time. The governors who have come merged are planning to register now. But that comment of theirs, do you think it can be dismissed with a wave of hand?
Well, it is difficult to analyze that comment, but what I'm trying to say, again, is that we cannot continue to say that Boko Haram is faceless. They have a face because some of them have been arrested, some have been killed. Number two, there must be a jointness in the approach to healing this particular area. The president, though, took time in going to Borno, but he has gone at last after his VP had gone. And I commend both efforts. Now, what I thought the president also needed to have said while in Borno is to remind the Borno people and Yobe people that the political party that led us to this part of perdition is the AMPP and not his party, PDP. But he didn't make that point. Maybe that could have been considered a cheap political point.
Yeah,
but these particular two states were never governed by his political party, that being PDP.
Yeah,
so there seems to be a problem in some of the states that were once held by AMPP, Kano, Borno, Yobe. But I'm not suggesting that it should become a political discourse. Then we now come back to the healing process. The Northern Governors Forum, led by Aliyu Babangida Muazu, never attempted to visit these political zones and give some form of support to the states of Yobe and Borno. I would have liked to have seen that happen. Then the ACF, Northern Union, kept holding summits in Kaduna and failed to go to these particular affected areas to carry our brothers and sisters in that region. They didn't do that. The JNI and the CAN in the north should have worked collaboratively in taking welfare materials to the affected victims in these areas. I don't know if they did that, but they didn't. So where do we begin to blame? Everything cannot be done from the center. Whereas, if this issue was a regional issue, then the insurgency started from the community. And members of the community know themselves. But they are afraid to point out who are the detractors in their midst, because they are not sure of the type of protection they will get from the center. So we need to look at this whole thing holistically and set a standard of approach. What I think is grossly missing in this fight is the absence of psychological operation. We must improve on the narratives, because all these things is mental and not that of physical.
Mr. Gbanito, if you allow me coming here, I think we have used the word ghost a couple of times, and looks like we have loads of them, ghost workers, unemployment, racketeering, and even faceless terrorists in our midst now. It brings us to data collection of citizens in the country, which is also part of security. How much have we done in that regard concerning data collection and analysis, just for us to know who is who in the country and who's come in and gone out?
I have been in your station severally. To discuss the issue of SIM card registration. We have had the INEC do biometrics registration for voters. We have had every major employer do biometrics registration for their employees. We have had families do biometrics for themselves. Universities doing biometrics. Yet, all these things are floating on the air. Recently, NIMSI, National Identification Management Commission,